All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Fitnesspreneurs Life Show, where we're going to be helping you really start seeing the magic of what it can mean to your business and your life when you go from offline to online and everything in between. And I'm pumped today to have Matt Walrath, the creator of BeyondMacros.com, nutrition coaching and podcast. So, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Vito. Stoked to be here as well, my man.
Absolutely, brother, man. It's just always a testament to when you meet good people, because I met you through this networking group, the Fitness Accelerator, and I've just seen the more and more the power of when we're working together as an industry, cross-promoting, cross-affiliating, showing everybody how you can share the wealth of what's going on out there. It leads to so much more powerful businesses. So I'm pumped because you were definitely one of the cool dudes I got to meet out of Eric Malzone and Doug Holt, those two villains out there. But they're good dudes. Do me a favor, for those that don't know your story and how you got from where you were to where you are, let's retrace that, because I often find in telling the story, there's the lessons and the roadblocks and the milestones kind of get revealed right there. And people learn so much better through those stories.
Yeah, of course. So right now where I'm at, as you mentioned in the intro, is that I've got an online nutrition coaching business where I've got 6 coaches who are working for me, and we find clients who are looking to make a transformation that lasts. And so I hire, train, and develop really amazing coaches to be able to develop, or to be able to actually give a great either one-on-one or group coaching experience for people who are really looking to make that initial transformation, to lean out, to perform better, but to do it in a way where they're setting themselves up for long-term success. And at this point, as I mentioned, I've got a team. I've got 6 coaches working for me. I've got an assistant. I've got a community manager. There's a team in place. But the thing is, that's not how it always was for me.
Wait, you mean you just didn't have it all straight out of the gate?
Yeah, no. It was there was a lot that led up to that, because in order to manage that team, it's like, if I've got a team of 7 people, man, that's like having 7 clients. And then they've got clients under them that I've also got to help out with, make sure they have a good client experience, make sure that any customer service stuff that needs to be addressed by the founder of the company gets addressed. So it's really interesting. I could not have gotten to the place where I am now if I was still coaching as many people as I was when I started the business.
And so let's take that, because here you got probably a listener in on this call is thinking about, like, I have an expertise, because you figured out your expertise is this idea of going beyond macros, and you saw a problem in the market. So let's go back and be like, step by step. You were a guy that developed an expertise in figuring out, man, the macros, it's good short term, it gets you to a goal, but there's a problem on the backside of that, sustainability. And you started to take that and develop a system around that coaching, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, I really noticed that with the macros, if you get calories and protein right, first and foremost, you're ahead of most people. But if you get your calories and your macros right for your goals, I noticed that was the thing that provided, the best initial transformation for people. But the big thing that I found was that if people really just focused on the macros, they kind of got in this situation where, the real red flag for me was when I saw a client had like a ridiculous amount of olive oil at a snack, and I asked them, "What'd you do?" And they said, "Oh, I just had a bunch of fat left for the day, so I went bottoms up on a bottle of olive oil before bed." And I was like, "That's a red flag. That is not something I need people to be doing."
I've not seen that in a magazine yet as a strategy of success anywhere.
Exactly.
Okay, so you kind of like, well, because sometimes people don't recognize how I can take my expertise that I've developed through hard work, certs, and years of study, and I start then being like, well, how the hell do I scale it? Because isn't that the problem that everybody runs into? Scale, because you're like, I could do it all day long, but now I got to figure out how the heck would I teach somebody else to do it so it can live beyond me. So here you were, you got your knowledge. What was the first sign that you're like, oh shit, this is going to live and die within me if I don't freaking figure out a way to scale this? What was happening at that time? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, it's interesting. The real transition point for me when I started Beyond Macros, which was the point where I actually started hiring and training other coaches, before that, it was just me doing nutrition coaching, but I was also, typical fitnesspreneur with 15 different income streams because none of them were really making it all work or really giving me the full satisfaction. I was coaching CrossFit classes. I was doing the personal training. I was coaching group nutrition classes as well as having my one-on-one nutrition clients. So, I was doing everything.
It's that like jack of all trades or a bunch of half-dug freaking holes around there versus being like, let me get one going deep and build some gold mines.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty crazy doing my taxes back then too, because I was like, I have so many 1099s and I have, it's just like, it's crazy. I think the more simple your taxes get is a better sign. It's like, okay, I finally consolidated things. I'm not all over the place.
I love it.
Yeah.
So how did you think about that?
Yeah. So for me, it was the point where I really started to have a consistent wait list and consistent results that I realized that I could scale things. I think one of the things that I find with the that want to go from in-person to online is that it's a selfish thing. It's that I don't want to be in the grind anymore, so I want to go online rather than I have something that the world needs. I'm getting great success with this. This is something that should be out there because the internet's an amplifier the way I see it. So it's like if you haven't ironed out your process yet, you shouldn't be going online. And I also had really deep ties with the gym that I was at doing PT, CrossFit, all that stuff. So for me, I was able to use internet tools to make people who I saw in person's experience even better.
I want you you dropped a couple little gold mines in there that I want the audience to really pick up on. Okay, so number one, before you think about scaling, make sure you have a wait list and you have a consistent results because otherwise there's nothing to go scale yet. And that's an important thing. If your process isn't nailed down, do that first. Create your framework, create your process, nail that first. Once you can create duplication of that and you're getting consistent results, then it's time to start thinking about scaling. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, hit it on the nose.
But you said something that I was like, I don't know if I've ever heard it said quite that way. You're like, the idea of going from offline to online, it isn't the selfish reason because I don't want to be in the trenches anymore. It's because more of the world needs my message.
Yes.
That's just that's awesome. Because that's the thing I find with a lot of people because I'm always out. I'm teaching everybody to go online. But it's not the idea of you'll never do offline again. You'll never do whatever. One, it's just reimagine what offline can look like. It could be events, workshops, retreats, different things like that. But it's not you're because I remember when I shifted and I got rid of my studio, a lot of people were like, man, you're out of the studio game, sell out, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, dude, I just figured out another way to scale my message and my expertise. It's an evolution. It's a transition, so I really like the way you said that. So I appreciate that. So you figured out your scalable process. Then from there, because that becomes the next hurdle. Okay, now I know I've got my process down. What did you do?
Yeah, so here's the issue is, like I said, I had a wait list. So that meant that I was at the maximum amount of work that I could possibly be doing and still providing a good experience for my clients. So for me at that point, it was a little bit slower of a process. I didn't have as much time. I had to sacrifice a little bit of sleep. It really became a side hustle. Scaling my business became the side hustle. And I had to make those sacrifices that you hear all these side hustlers doing. So initially it was really just thinking about, okay, what will this look like? Before I start to find people that I can put into these roles, who are the types of people that I need to be hiring? What am I looking for? Is there a certain certification that I'm looking for these people to have? Is there a certain type of person that I'm looking for? Somebody who's in CrossFit, or maybe I want somebody who has a special expertise in something. I really had to sit down and plan that out. So the initial phase for me was really getting clear about who did I need to hire? What did I need them to do so that I would save me time? I had to think about how much I was going to be paying them, because if I'm going to reach out to people and start trying to hire people to come in, I need to be able to give them an idea about compensation so we could negotiate on that. And then I also had to think about how am I going to train them? Because the thing is, it's all up here. Now, what am I going to do? Am I going to email them? Am I going to mentor them? How's that all going to look? So the first thing was just setting the stage and thinking about and really drawing from my experience. What trainings have I gone through that I found to be really effective? who are the type of people that I really enjoyed working with, and what do people like about working with me, and how can I identify those characteristics in people or coach those characteristics in people. So it was a lot of that planning.
I mean, that's big, because it's like a lot of people want to jump to how do I monetize, how do I do all that, but you were like, hold on a sec, before we do that, it's kind of like even when you're going out trying to grow your business, one of the lessons that we're always teaching is get clarity of the audience member that you want. But you're also like, I had to get clarity of the audience from the side idea of like, who will I mentor? Who will work for me? Not even just the end consumer, but the actual staff. And like, it's just like in studios or in the gym business, you're like, are you ever clear on the kind of trainer you want, so that you don't bring every trainer on and you just got select trainers, sporadic trainers, this, that. So you got really clear on the audience, from the idea of also like, if I'm going to scale me and I want somebody representing my brand and representing my message, I'm going to set parameters and standards.
Yes.
Key. And then you said, I got clarity of what I wanted them to, as far as a training system, so that I can have process in there. I mean, from what I'm understanding, Matt, you are pretty process system oriented.
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky to have my last class in business school was a business strategy class. That was our capstone course in my undergrad. And my teacher was an amazing strategic thinker. She was probably the best strategic thinker that I've had the opportunity to meet in person. And it was amazing just to be able to assimilate some of what she was throwing out to us.
I love that. And by the way, with me, I'm just taking notes. So don't, I apologize if it looks like I'm looking down. I'm just taking notes on what you're saying so I can recap some of this gold right here. But just right there, if you picked up on that, you had business training, you took business courses.
Yeah.
That's always the thing that I'm like, trainers, Group X, studio owners, take business and marketing classes and training. Because at the back of our certifications, at the back of our manuals, there's still there's no business and marketing. And that's why so much of our industry is struggling. But your strategic planning, like what's one of the biggest gold nuggets from your strategic planning besides the systems that you can remember?
In terms of what she had taught us?
Yeah.
Oh, so she had taught us to really to zoom out. One of the things that, and I've taken this into my coaching, but to zoom out on the business. Because she was saying that if you're at the top, you need to be able to get out of the trenches of any individual business unit. So you know that your finance people are going to be completely thinking through a finance lens, and that your marketing people are thinking through a marketing lens, and your sales people are only seeing it from those perspectives. And that it's your duty as somebody in that upper role, in that strategic role, to be able to zoom out and be able to take each of those pieces of advice and see how they fit into the bigger puzzle. And that's also something that I've implemented in my coaching, because with nutrition coaching, if you can zoom out, you can see, okay, is that person making this incremental change to their nutrition? Is it going to affect their social life, which is then going to cause more issues for their mental health, emotional health, and physical health? Then that change is going to actually benefit them. So you start to see the whole ecosystem and take each of the feedback points individually, and then figure out how does that dictate strategy.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the difference between like learning in the lab and learning in life type thing. Because I used to, like, when I back in my day when I had my studio and whatnot, and I used to first do metabolic testing, RMR, VO2, and all that shit and whatnot. And I would create these amazingly perfect like meal plans, and people like, dude, do you know what my morning schedule is like? I have like a kid on my hip. I'm trying to find the one that ran out of the house naked and this and that. And I'm trying to get to work and this, and you want me to do this like chop bok choy and do this and weigh that and measure that. And I'm like, so that's not really what your life is like? It's in their ideal mind versus what you just said, like, how does it affect their social life, their family life? What's the stuff that's going on around them that oftentimes we don't consider because we think theory or absolute or perfect and whatnot. So dang, like, tell me a little bit about the way this like BeyondMacros works, because I'm interested in how you're coaching this, because I think I think you niched CrossFit in the beginning. Are you still niched there?
So because of our search engine optimization, there's definitely been a lot more people coming in who just generally want macro coaching. I really started with CrossFit because that's the community that I was in. I was a regionals competitor for 2 years, and I had coached at a CrossFit gym. I've been a CrossFit trainer since 2010. It's just the community that I was so deep in. So that was the initial niche. And then I started branching out because there was a lot of crossover between CrossFit and obstacle course racing for a while too. So, we definitely, I'd say that those are the center of the bullseye for us, but we really, anybody who's doing any training, our goal is just to help people make that sustainable change, that sustainable transformation. So they're the center of the bullseye, but it's not the competitors within those communities. It's the general population. It's the people who have the naked kid running outside while they're trying to chop bok choy that we're going after.
Man, okay, so let's break down a couple things in there, because I love when lessons are backing each other up. Because like I look at when I scaled my business online, I started just in the fitness industry, because just to your exact point, the community that you're already involved in, because they know, like, and trust you. You can tell the stories, you can speak the language. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about, well, what am I going to go do online, or where am I going to start? Start with the community that you're already involved in, because it's like that, be that big fish in the, well, CrossFit isn't that little of a pond, but be the big fish in a little pond versus the little fish in a massive pond you can't break through. But once you get that sucker going and making gold, then you can go scale to other markets. And you're reiterating that was a clue to your success. That you're like, I started within a niche I knew and I had leverage in. Then from there, once I got it running, I jumped out into other niches and began to scale from there. Like, when I looked you guys up, like, you're pretty search engine. Like, when I put in BeyondMacros and things like that, I was like, poof, poof, poof. I was like, he knows his shit when it's coming to content marketing and whatnot. How has that played a role? Because it's like, it's the one thing that is very difficult to get people to commit to. I'm like, you got to be doing authority marketing, content marketing, because that's what's going to build the automated stuff coming in. Otherwise, it's just never going to get there, because you're never seen, or you're not searchable. You're not being positioned as the authority. How did you guys leverage that for your business, or what made you make those moves?
Yeah, so for me, as I mentioned, I started out, I had that community. I was part of and coaching at a CrossFit gym that had 500 members. So I had a relatively big pond that I was swimming in of potential clients. One of the best months that we've ever had was early on in the business. It was right after the CrossFit Open, right before I was going to compete at CrossFit Regionals. And I had just been out, the face of the gym, and people saw that, and they saw that I was helping our competitors, and they were like, oh, if it works for them, it'll work for me. And that was one of the best months we ever had in the business, was very early on and starting things out. And so I was able to have a solid word of mouth business, a solid business where the offline is what drove it, which gave me the opportunity to invest in things that were going to have a longer term payout, like that content marketing, like making sure that I had SEO optimized, amazing Cornerstone content that had lead magnets attached to it that could then lead to some more automations to warm people up and educate people. So just the fact that I had that offline presence allowed me to actually invest in the online things that allowed us to be successful now.
So that offline to online, you took the existing community, but you took your program and you're like, what I was teaching live, I'm just going to teach online, but I'm going to go market to the people I have in the offline space, but say, hey, here's my additional, here's another coaching course, another coaching program, another way to access it. Am I hearing that right?
So really what was happening was that I didn't have to do paid ads or anything like that. I had 500 people who I would see in person. It's that in real life opportunity to really showcase who I was, and I would do some free seminars at the gym and things of that nature that would actually generate some leads. And so the business was able to sustain itself on that in real life and word of mouth, that offline marketing space. But then I was able to, when people came in, I still had online tools that I was using. I still had a 90-day autoresponder that would go out and send them meal prep recipes every weekend and some pieces of content just so that they had that offline experience. I would still be using technology to make sure that we were properly tracking what needed to be tracked. scheduling meetings is done with online technology. So even though I was finding these people with person-to-person interactions in real life offline, I was still using a lot of online tools to make sure that they were having an amazing experience. And that's one of the things that's continued on today. And as I mentioned, that was the core that allowed me to then invest my time in the Cornerstone content on the website, making sure I was investing time in SEO, which has, a 4 to 6 month period before it actually starts to pay off in terms of lead generation and ranking.
Okay, I got to hit a couple things there.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. So I just want to clarify one thing. So I get that you're doing seminars and stuff, which is great because you're going instead of one-to-one, not that you're still not doing one-to-one, but you were doing one-to-many selling now. Were you at the end of that seminar when you're saying, hey, I've got something for you, that was your nutrition coaching, but was more of it also like modules and things? Did you turn it into an online course that they can all get into? Or was it still you just generating the leads to say, come sign up with me one-on-one?
It was all generating the one-on-one.
Okay, great. Okay, so that there, now I'm seeing the through line. Then you started using technology and things and online tools to give that experience. But it also sounded like all the little stuff, like I didn't have to schedule them myself, like back in the old day where you're like, do you fit on my calendar type stuff? And tracking and measuring, man. I've seen studios that still have like the paper trackers, sticky notes and whatnot. I'm like, I have no idea how you're running a freaking systematic business. But that also had to be what started to give you more time, because you're using technology to give you time where you're like, I don't care if that buys you 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes there. You clean that over time. You were like, that gave me the time to start writing Cornerstone content. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's smart. That's smart, because that's how we have to use online and automation and things to finally give us time to get us out of the trading dollars for hours. That time plowed into an online business like this. Now we're talking scale, and you can finally start creating revenue that allows you to invest deeper in that progress and building an online business. Cornerstone content. And the fact that SEO doesn't catch up for about 4 to 6 months. I just want to make sure people underline that when they're taking notes, because people think it's instant. I'm online, I've got shit up, and you're like, it takes time for this stuff to get going and things like that. But Cornerstone content, explain that for people that might be like, I don't know what that is and how you use that to build search engine optimization. What was the value of that?
Yeah, for me, it was really identifying, okay, what are people who are going to be interested in the service that I provide? What are they going to be searching for on Google? And how can I actually create a piece of content that is going to address everything that they would want to know about that topic? And then how can I then write this piece that leaves no stone unturned about that topic, gets all of the keywords that I need to be hitting in there, does it in a way that sounds human instead of robotic? We're not back in the late 90s when you could just keyword stuff. It has to be readable, because now Google's looking at things like bounce rate. It's looking at things like how long is someone on the page? How far are they getting down the page? How many other pages or links are they clicking to? So, making sure all the on page was on point, and then also making sure that there was an offer on the page for something free, a content upgrade, which in this case was a lead magnet, where they trade their first name and their email for a piece of content that was a companion and something that I knew the people searching for that content would want. It's something that I think 38% of our page views convert to the lead magnet.
That's fantastic. So, that's a great conversion.
Yeah. And so our number one piece of Cornerstone content right now, that thing generates about 115 emails per week. Still, I wrote it 2 years ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's just back to asset building. You're like, I understood the audience, I understood their problems, and I could either, back in the day, you're like, I used to have to say this shit personally, time and time and time again, or I can write. We call them pillar blogs. You call them Cornerstone content. Same freaking thing. It's just like the pillar, the cornerstone.
Yeah.
You're like, but if you do it right and you take the time to really understand the audience, not be lazy about writing the content, kind of truly write that cornerstone pillar piece, it can be eternal. It can be timeless because you're like, I based it upon principles. I based it upon the problems that are going to exist. Anytime somebody new comes into that thing, it's going to be the same problems. And the best part about it is like, when everyone reads that, who's the expert? Matt is the expert on that. And what you then do, and this is where I'm actually doing a session on this at Idea World about content that sells. You're like, I took your problem, but then I said, there is a solution. So I'm positioning my next step and eventually my offer. A lot of people would just put content out, and I'm like, that was good content, but it's not growing your business. It's not making you money because you didn't lead it anywhere. So talk a little bit how you're making that process work for you.
Yeah, so I don't put out content on our blog very often. I really just make sure that if I'm going to be writing something, that it is going to be something that, as you mentioned, is going to be evergreen. It's going to be based on principles. It's going to address everything that the market that I'm looking to pull in is going to want to be addressed. I think one of the big things that people have to overcome when they're thinking about this content is you have to overcome fear. And that fear is the fear that you're giving away everything, and that once you put that piece of content out, then nobody's going to want what you offer because you already gave it to them. But the thing is, if you show them that you've got the solution and you really just absolutely knock it out of the park, then you're the person that they're going to look to for the implementation piece. Because even though they have the knowledge, that doesn't mean that they have the ability to implement the knowledge. They may still need somebody to do it. You can hand somebody a map about how to get up Mount Kilimanjaro, but you're still going to want some guides that are going to help you on the way. So I think it's really important for people to get over the fear and just make sure that it is such a good piece of content that you're putting out.
That's killer. You hit probably the emotional fear, the pain right there, which is the fear. But as you've grown a phenomenal business, it's an unjustified fear. Instead, it's always like, teach them the what and the why. They're still going to always need the how. And that's though where if you're going to put that stuff out there, make sure you have a how, because that's how they're going to be like, yeah, I want to take the next step. So you then take them to the next step, and that includes like, hey, I give them an assessment. I do what does your like free gift or your lead magnet look like, and what does your courses look like or your programs look like?
Yeah, so we have a calorie and macronutrient calculator worksheet that helps people figure out what their calories and macros need to be. I see companies out there who are charging $150 for them to calculate your macros 3 times and send you a template of meal ideas that you can have. You know, something that doesn't take any time and definitely does not warrant paying $150 for. That was one of the reasons I wrote this piece of content, is I think that with the macros, it's like if you're on a nutrition journey, the macros, you haven't even put your shoes on yet. You've been given the map. You still need to lace up and start taking steps. So I think it's ridiculous that there's businesses built on just calculating 4 numbers: calorie, fat, protein, and carbohydrate. I think that's something that we should be empowering people to take into their own hands, because the real obstacles come when they're trying to implement that. So they get that worksheet. I'm fine with giving people the calories and macros, because I realize that most people, when they read that Cornerstone piece of content and they get that lead magnet, that's all they wanted. They came, they got exactly what they wanted, and they'll probably unsubscribe from my list on the welcome email. That's fine. It sifts them out. I don't have to pay for them to be sitting.
That's right.
Yeah, I would have cleaned them out at the end of the quarter anyway. So unsubscribe away. You got what you want. I'd love if you reached out to me and let me know how things were going. But, if you don't, whatever. The world's a better place for it.
That's right.
But the people who actually then end up in our initial email autoresponder from that, they're getting hit with really good content. I'm continuing to give them things that are going to help them along the way on the journey. And one of the issues I think is a lot of people think that they have to create an online course right away. And I without having the online coaching piece. And I don't think that's a good way of going about it. And I think that also creates some of that fear around giving too much information away initially, and holds them back from being able to create a good business based off Cornerstone content. Because they think, if I give it away, what the heck am I going to put in a course? This is all I know. So, that becomes an issue. But if you continue to just hit them with really good information before you ever hit them with any marketing speak or offers, then you're going to be an authority in their head. You're going to be somebody who they learn. You know, when I click on something that BeyondMacros is sending me, if I click on a link, it's usually going to be a worksheet that helps me along the way, a video that's helped me to do something, a community that I can be a part of that's going to support me in the journey. And then now, okay, you know, I might want one-on-one coaching, or I might want to be part of their online coaching community. So, you know, those are the two offers that we have after, you know, you don't see that until about 5 or 6 emails into our welcome sequence.
How far are you spacing your emails apart? One day, one a week?
It's conditional. So it'll usually be, because I use ActiveCampaign, so usually it'll be, I'll wait until somebody clicks up to 1-2 days, and then I'll also create a buffer so that they're not clicking and then immediately getting the next email. So I might be sending it, you know, wait up to 1 day until they click, and then wait 1 day. So if you get the email, you click it, you're getting the next email the next day. But if, you know, it's really until you've made the click, you know, you're not going to get it. If you don't click the email, 2 days later, you're getting shuttled off into another part of my funnel where it reminds you about the content upgrade I just sent you, so that you remember to download it. So, you know, there's different paths that I take with it. I mean, if people looked at the automations that I run, their minds would explode with the different paths. But I mean, that's what needs to happen over time.
Right. I mean, there's 2 different theories on that kind of stuff, because simple is easy for us to like take into our heads, but simple is also duplicatable and not the full picture. Complex creates like sophistication where you're like very difficult to duplicate, but also adds so many layers of what you can do, and that complexity. I remember learning that from Dan Kennedy, that I know everyone wants simple. You should understand the principles simply.
Yeah.
But having a complex system, that's what professionals and people creating the wealth and the success of their businesses are doing. And it's kind of like, you're just like I get it all. And I will, like, when Mike and my partner and I are mapping things out, we're the same. Like, it's just this fucking spider web of shit. But I'm like, Mike, you go into ActiveCampaign and you set all that up. That's not my head, but that's exactly it. And if you guys are thinking about like, God, I would love to have something for that. I like you, we use ActiveCampaign too. I think it's just the easiest one and the simplest one that for people to get out there, and it's a good price point as compared to Infusionsoft and some of the other things that are out there. So that's a good tool if you guys are thinking about that. So I love that you're doing all that shit. Now you right now, and it speaks to say you have a coaching. You're following people into one-on-one coaching, but it's being done video or tele.
Yeah, we do video chats as well as email check-ins every week.
Okay. And then you put them in a community.
Yeah. So we have our one-on-one where people are getting food journal reviews every week with feedback, tune-ups. They have unlimited access to their coach via email. You know, most people set up a rapport with their coach. It's really that VIP one-on-one coaching experience. Even our online coaching has one-on-one components. We have some shorter calls involved. You have a dedicated coach in there. Our premium online coaching, you actually get a monthly food journal review by your coach with some tune-ups. So the premium coaching for our online, you know, it's a little bit higher price point versus our regular online coaching, but you get a lot of value out of it.
About accessibility. You're paying for the accessibility.
Exactly.
That's great. And so a couple points on that. You never have to listen to any one model out there. There's a lot of different ways to skin your online model. So just like you're proving there, like you've got the one-on-one coaching, then you have the group coaching community stuff. And you're like, that's what we got right now. We're going to be really fucking excellent at those two before we go try to do 19 different other business models on top of that. And the fact that even in an online business, you always have to include some way. At least this is, and you correct me if you disagree with this, but some way of they have to have access to the human as compared to it's just a completely online course, and you never hear from the authority, the expert, the guru, and you never create connection because it's very difficult to keep retention of that person, and then let alone get them to buy other stuff because they're like half the time they don't open it, and then the other half of the time they don't connect with the community. And people will come for content but stay for community, I found. So like we're always saying at some way, do a coaching call, do something, have some way that they can get in contact with you, or you're going to have a one-time buyer And that's gonna be a really difficult business model.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would be an absolute nightmare for me. The reason that I haven't branched into some of the more automated or highly leveraged things like courses and things of that nature, it's really twofold. One of them is when I was still early on, before I started BeyondMacros, I would give out essentially I would give out free information, and I could see how many people in our gym, it was just the members of our gym, how many people in our gym downloaded the information. And then I followed up with them, and I realized that maybe 10% of the people who downloaded it actually implemented it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next step that I had was I had 6-week group courses that I taught in person at the gym. And I would say that on average, about, I think it was on the nose, 36% of the participants, I had like 100 participants, so about 36 of them actually followed through with everything we went over in the course and showed up to every week. So, a 36% completion rate. Now, when we were working with one-on-one clients, when I first started BeyondMacros, we had an 80% success rate. So that meant that 80 out of 100 people that came to work with us were actually making tangible progress towards their goal by day 90 of the experience. So, I was like, why am I going to put a lot of energy into something that 36% of people are going to complete, 10% of people are actually going to even look at? Why am I going to put my energy into that? So that's why I've really stuck as much as possible to the one-on-one coaching and differentiating on client experience. Now, the other reason that I haven't gone into some of those things is because I think it's Herb Kelleher from Southwest Airways. For him, he uses his company's mission statement as being the low-cost airline, the low-fare airline, as being the lens at which he looks into making decisions. It's like, okay, I look at this. Will it make us the low-fare airline? No, it won't. And for me, I'm like, we're the sustainable transformation nutrition coaches. Will this thing that we offer make us better at being that? And if that's not the case, then, I don't want to do it. And that issue with the completion rate of some of these things is the reason I'm like, oh man, that's for, if 64% of people aren't making a sustainable transformation, let alone even completing this, that doesn't put us in line with our company's mission.
Just wrote that. I wrote the words clarity of vision and mission. And just as you were wrapping up there, I'm like, you created your filter, and our filter is we're the sustainable, say it one more time, the sustainable nutrition, say that one more time.
The sustainable transformation nutrition coaches.
Right. You're like, that's our filter. That's our lens. Everything has to go through that. If it doesn't, right off the plate, quick no. I'm faster to say no, and I'm faster to say yes to the things that move us forward. But so what that also allows is the fact that you're like, because that's our lens and that's our filter, that's our vision, our mission type thing. You're like, the way we deliver it is one-on-one, and I've figured out the ways to, like, you're able to do that because you're like, I'm okay scaling to build a team. I bring on coaches because you have other people teaching that. If you're like, oh, I don't want to build that, I don't want to scale that, well, then maybe online courses and knowing how to do group coaching calls, how to upsell people to one-on-one, you got to figure that model out. But for you, you're like, well, we know because this is a behavior change thing. So we need people freaking being accountable to other people in order to get that there. But you're like, well, the way I'm going to scale it so that Matt isn't the only one that's able to do that was I figured out how to scale to growing a team, bringing people on. Talk to us a little bit about what that part of your business looks like. Is it coaches come on and they're licensing your program, you're hiring them yourself? What's that side of the business?
Yeah, so I actually charge coaches to go through our coaches training program. I'm actually working on getting it certified right now so that the ones who don't end up getting hired at least have a piece of paper at the end of the situation.
Nice.
But yeah, so I charge right now. I'm the one who's doing the mentorship. So essentially I have a self-paced program that they're going to be going through that's going to teach them what our values are and how to deliver a good experience with the softwares in particular that we use in order to deliver a great experience. Really teaches them all the key points that they need to be hitting, gives them checklists and resources, things of that nature. And within that, and I stole this I went through functional diagnostic nutrition certification, and I loved the part of it where they had a lot of case studies, and I also had a mentor. And with my mentor, we would do role plays. So one thing was, part of that experience was going through it as a client yourself. So all of our coaches in training go through the process as a client themselves. Then we also do role plays. So I will step into the role of being one of our client avatars. And then we're going to get on to the orientation call that we have, the 60-day call that we have, a check-in call. They're going to do their email check-ins with me pretending to be that client avatar. And then based off of what they do, I'm going to give them notes on, how are they doing with writing that feedback? Are there ways they can be clear, more concise? What are the resources they can do to improve? I'm really giving them a lot of feedback about the experiences. I'm filming those calls that we're doing, the role plays, and I'm giving them notes. I'm giving them immediate feedback in the moment at the end. And then I actually watch those again, and I'm looking and I'm giving notes. I'm annotating the video and I send the video back to them.
Nice, dude.
So it's like a very involved process. And that's one of the reasons I charge people, is because before I charge people, I had 2 people get 2 months into the program and then all of a sudden just fall off. And I was like, I put so much energy into this isn't okay. And I just started charging for it. Now I've got more interest now that I've been charging for it.
Well, they got skin in the game.
Exactly. And now the people, they're looking to crush it because they're working one-on-one with a founder. They want to show me that they can do what it takes to embody the principles we want. I really want growth-minded people, because the thing is, they're growth-minded. If they're with me for 1, 2, 3 years and I keep them happy through that time, by year 3, they're just going to be an absolute rock star. And
so you take them through the SERP process, and then you're making a gut call whether the growth of the business lets me hire you, or what are you doing with them as they come through that? It's either like, hey, I've got a position for you. Would you like to take it? Or, hey, you can go take that process and go do it in your own business. What does that back end look like?
Yeah, so it is. Oftentimes I always let people know, like, we don't have a position open right now, but you're not going to finish this for 3 months. We may very well have a position at that point. You need to go into it knowing that you may not be working for BeyondMacros right out of the gate. So, I always set that expectation. I'm just like, this is going to be a high value experience for you. If you want the experience and you're willing to work your butt off, there's definitely some potential for payoff. And, we've had, over the last 6 months since I really started charging for it, we've had 3 people go through the program and end up becoming coaches. So, there are positions available, but at the same time, I always let people know, like, if you don't crush it, like, I'm not going to hire you. I don't need, a middle of the road coach. We're differentiated on client experience.
We're looking for mediocre around here. Come on.
Yeah. Like, we're differentiated on client experience. So, I'm really looking for standout people. So that's really the.
But so if they go through the process and the position isn't there, are they able to take the process and go coach it on their own after that, or no?
I mean, the thing is, they could, but within contractually, they can't just like exactly replicate what we're doing and use BeyondMacros and say, I'm a BeyondMacros coach right now. Eventually, when there's a certification, they can say that I've been certified. But, I'll figure out all the legal status.
Those stuff when you get there, right?
Yeah, and make sure that we're not diluting our brand by doing that. But, for the most part, I had one person who they went through all of it. They didn't end up getting hired as a coach, but I still found a position for them within the company, and I'm still developing them because I see the potential in them. They're just not currently at the level that I would require them to be a full-on BeyondMacros coach. So the thing is, I don't want to leave anybody high and dry. Like, I don't want to be an asshole about the experience. But, it's like if somebody's working hard and they're just not there yet, I want to find a way to help them out. Right. I'm going to mentor them. I'm going to make sure that they understand, if they need to do this on their own, what's that look like? But, the reason that, like, you're probably in the business that you're in, and the reason that I'm starting to mentor people is most people in the fitness industry don't know anything about business, and they don't want to market themselves. And that's why they want to work for a company like mine. It's because we find the clients, all they got to do is coach.
Yep. But then also understand the payoff, what that means.
Yeah.
That's the thing, because sometimes the person wants to be like, well, I want to have the freedom lifestyle and make this amount of income, and blah, blah, and you're like, but you don't want to do the work for that. You don't want to be the business. You don't want to be the market. You don't want to be the voice. You don't want to be the face. You want to just implement. Well, that's a job.
Yeah.
And we see how jobs are compensated. Not that you can't make great livings and do some stuff, but It's not the same life of the visionary, the entrepreneur. So we just have to, I'm always just like, then just be okay with that. Because not everybody was meant to be the business owner, the entrepreneur. So change the ambition to match the actions you're willing to take.
Exactly.
Just I think that's the fair trade.
Yeah.
What's that?
I love the way that you put that.
Yeah. Thank you. So do me that, because by the way, like I would love for people to like, if your nutrition coaching and knowing how to teach this kind of stuff is up a listener's alley, because I don't even know, picked up when you were just sharing how you did your process of how you work with your people, where you're like, I make them go through the process. I role play their stuff. What you're doing is you're checking quality control. You're checking that there's feedback and progress being. I'm like, I don't know if you ever read John Maxwell or not, but that's straight out of his like leadership style of training. I was just like, you're just dialed in. You're uber dialed in. That how can people contact you, find you, get involved with something like this? Because if you're looking to do nutrition coaching, and I've spoken to many different people, you're one of the more dialed in dudes I've ever had on a call or whatnot. How do these people find you, get connected to you?
Yeah, if anyone wants to learn about our business, website's BeyondMacros.com. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm fairly responsive on email. I always get back to people by Friday if they email me during the work week. So my email is Matt, M-A-T-T, at BeyondMacros.com. And yeah, if anybody is looking to get a position in our upcoming new year setup for the coaches training, if anyone wants to actually go through that process, we've got spaces opening up coming in the new year. If anybody's in the position of people that I mentor in business, or people who are at kind of where I started, it's like you've got a dialed in process, you've started to go online, but now you need to figure out how you're actually going to be providing a good client experience as you scale. And I'm really good at figuring out how to use tools and software automations and creating teams to make that happen. That's the level of person that I work with. And I don't work with people who are starting new businesses. And I'm definitely not working with people who are in front of me in terms of business. Like that's the level of business mentorship.
Okay, so hold on. So like maybe I'm so beyondmacros.com, that's where you can find out about all the nutrition stuff. But you're also working with people that like you have a dialed in process. And you want to know how the hell I took my process and started to make it into this system so I could scale it, make it a cert type thing and whatnot. So you do that kind of business coaching as well?
Yeah. I've started working with business owners. The thing is, I keep the people that I work to small. I'm working right now with some business owners who I think have great concepts, great ideas. They've got great results with clients, but they don't know how to use the tools that are available to them to have a really good business. So yeah, I've been starting to work with people specifically in coaching business because as we talked about earlier, it's like, I'm working within the community that I understand, fitness coaching businesses. So maybe one day I'll expand that further, but yeah.
And you're content, you're fulfilled, you're living your purpose. And that's why I believe clarity of vision should supersede even start building shit. Be like, are you clear on the life you want, the roles, the priorities, what matters most, where you want, because then you're like, you don't have to look at somebody and be like, I want your 8-figure life and everything you're doing and whatnot. As compared to like I'm like, I want to live on my vineyard, have my gardens, be there for my kid, have my wife. We're both online. We're like, that was our vision. We built it to match that, not being like, I must scale to hit every corner of the globe and this and that. Because I'm like, then I'd sacrifice those things. And having that really helps you just be happy on the journey as you're building this vision for yourself and whatnot. But dude, I just want to thank you for your time coming on here. You shared an entire build an online thing, blueprint, that when we turn this into a blog, into an article, and be like, step 1, 2, 3, 4, it was all laid out there. So just thank you for what you're doing out in the industry, for connecting with us and sharing your knowledge and your value with our audience here, and being clear on what you want to do and who you want to be and how you want to live out in that world. Because that, I believe, is what more of the industry needs to see. So just awesome to have you on, brother.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, and I appreciate it. I love having conversations like this. Business is one of my favorite things to talk about.
It absolutely is. I'm always just like, nerd out on business, people. Nerd out on marketing, and your freaking business and your life are going to take off. So we are done for today, guys. Have a great rest of your month, and we'll see you in next month's episode as we continue to help you build that visionary life. Peace.